Thank you for tuning in to the third part of the Sands of Time trilogy. Here is what we've covered so far. We've seen the prince and his adventures in Azad during the Sands of Time, and also we saw him defeat the Dahaka and change his fate in Warrior Within. If you haven't watched either one of those installments, do yourself a favor and pause this video and watch both of them again so everything is fresh in your mind. I'll wait. You can just pause it. Okay, now that you're caught up, we're going to be covering the events of the last game in this trilogy, The Two Thrones. Like always, spoilers, tons and tons of them. You've been warned. So The Two Thrones picks up with the prince and Kylina saying, whoa, hold up. Who's this? And who is that? Didn't this game take place mere days, mere minutes after Warrior Within? Do these two look like the same person? Which do you prefer? The Warrior Prince or this one? So far, I am not liking this prince design. Anyways, following the events of the canon ending of Warrior Within, they sail back to Babylon to find it burning and in ruins. The mysterious attackers destroy the prince's boat and capture Kylina. The prince fights his way to Kylina only to find the vizier. Yeah, that vizier from the Sands of Time. Now let me pause for a second. I already know what you're thinking. Wait a second, didn't he die by the prince's hand in the Sands of Time? Well, my fellow viewer, let me explain this to you the best I can. The prince defeats the vizier in the Sands of Time, 7 years later finds the Island of Time, travels back in time to an unknown year to find the Empress Kylina. He then forces Kylina into the present, making it as if the events of the Sands of Time have never happened. He never traveled to the palace in India, never found the Sands of Time, never opened said sands, and never killed the vizier. Now here's where it gets a little confusing, so stay with me. The Maharaja, Farah's father, travels with the vizier to the Island of Time to find the hourglass empty, void of the sands since they haven't been created yet. They did, however, find the Staff of Time, the Dagger of Time, and the Amulet of Time. If those sound familiar, it's probably because I've talked about them before. So after digging a little deeper, I found out that the Dagger of Time was drawing him to Babylon. They also find books with the dagger and the staff and the amulet that explain the Empress and her journey with the prince returning to Babylon one day. So this also explains why he was able to manipulate the sands and the monsters in the Sands of Time. That staff that he had was an artifact of time. This brings us back to the prince catching up with Kylina. Are you confused yet? Time travel is a bitch to explain, especially when there are 2 different timelines in this trilogy alone. Well, 3 if you count the prince defeating Kylina in the present and it ending there. If you're still confused, leave me a comment or find me on Twitter with your question, at VG_Vault. Anyways, back to the vizier. He kills Kylina with the Dagger of Time, and just like that, the sands are created. Her death is what creates them. Remember, the prince found this out in Warrior Within, but you should already know that since you literally just watched this right before starting this up again, right? Right? The vizier kills Kylina and immediately stabs himself with the dagger, injecting the sands into his body, transforming him into the entity known as Zurvan. Zurvan? The god of time? No? Am I saying that right? The release of the sands transforms everything once again into monsters. The prince is stopped by one of the vizier's generals and becomes partially infected with the sands before he can reach the Dagger of Time. This forms a darker version of himself that we can call the Dark Prince. The princes stumble upon Farah. Yeah, that Farah from the Sands of Time. But keep in mind, she has only ever heard stories of the prince and his kingdom in Babylon. Remember, he never went to her palace in India and never told her the recap of what happened in Azad. Anyways, she's a bit more badass in this game, donning cool looking armor and having a lot more combat knowledge. Well, they start to form a bond once again as they travel to the Tower of Babel. That's the main palace in the middle of the city. Farah gets captured during their time in the Hanging Gardens by Zurvan, whatever. He plans to make her his queen. This drives the prince to chase after him, only to fall into a deep well and succumb to the Dark Prince form once again. The prince at the bottom of the well finds his father dead and accepts his fate because all along he was being selfish and only thought of his future. This allows the prince to ignore the Dark Prince within and changes back to his normal self, when normally to change back the prince would have to touch water. After what seems like eternity, the prince finally makes it to the top of the Tower of Babel. How does anybody get around this kingdom? Come on! You have an elevator, prince. Think maybe you could have one installed in the main tower also? Anyways, he makes it to the top of the tower and defeats Zurvan. I'm just going with Zurvan, with the Dagger of Time. Kylena appears and cures him of the sand infection. The prince then finds his father's crown, only to have the hooded figure we see in the final cutscene of Warrior Within, the Dark Prince, drag him into his mind for one last battle. He defeats the Dark Prince and reunites with Farah. She then proceeds to ask him how he knew her name, with the prince replying with his words from the first game, making it as if the entire series was narrated after the events of the Two Thrones. What a great ending. It basically ties every single game together. So, I do have a few gripes about this game that are pretty noticeable. Let me explain. So first, obviously, is the prince's new design. I just think the idea to change him yet again doesn't really sit well with me. But again, you guys decide. Next, we have this issue. In the Sands of Time, we acquire the Dagger of Time, and our sand blocks reflect the shape of the dagger. In Warrior Within, we have the amulet Farah gave us, and it's shaped as such. So why in this game do we still have the amulet style HUD? The prince tosses the amulet into the water at the beginning of the game thinking everything's all over. That's why he's partially infected before he receives the dagger. So our HUD should reflect the dagger, not the amulet style. Again, I'm wondering why this was overlooked. There's an addition of a quick kill system. It's cool and all, but there's almost no time to react when your time to push a button happens. Just look at this. I ended up just fighting everyone every single time. And last but not least, these fucking chariot parts. I seriously just wanted to give up. But that's enough gripes. What is there to earn after beating this game? Well, just like Warrior Within, we're treated to artwork and such, but the catch this time is they are locked behind DLC. No, I'm just kidding. They're locked behind what we call sand credits. Okay, so how do you earn credits, you ask? By breaking every single pot, basket, and vase. You earn 1 credit per sand pickup thing, I guess, what you would call it. You can also earn them by killing every single enemy you come across and closing sand gates. I'll get to those in a second. But back to the artwork. I would have to play the game and farm tons of credits just to show you what's unlocked. I honestly don't care to buy everything, and if you really want to see, I'll leave a link in the description with the search for it. So sand gates are how you unlock sand powers this go around. You have to defeat the sand gate guards by silent means or by killing everything that steps through it. Once all the enemies are defeated, you're able to collect the power up. And it does its job by telling you not once, but 2 times. 1 screen would have been good enough, just saying. The only real powers I used were the recall, that's rewinding time, and the eye of the storm, that's the ability to slow time down. The other two powers, the wind of sand and sandstorm, I didn't even use once, so I don't have any footage or any clue what they do. My overall outlook on the Two Thrones is that it really tried its best to copy the Sands of Time. We have the setting being a kingdom or a city, the Vizier, Farah, the enlarged Dagger of Time. Seriously, look at this thing compared to when we last saw it. Yeah, that's huge. The game also goes back to a linear style, and for some reason it just didn't grab my attention as much as the Sands of Time. Now don't get me wrong, it was a good game, but I still prefer the Warrior Within. If you haven't played this yet, I do recommend a playthrough just to see what it's all about, since I didn't get to cover every single thing in this video. You can pick up the HD Trilogy version on PS3, or you could just get them in their 480p glory on PS2 or Xbox. Let me know what you guys thought of this trilogy as a whole. I'm going to be taking a break from the Prince and his adventures for a bit before we tackle that 2008 remake. Yeah, I did buy it. And yes, you can come out of the trash can when I do the video. I'm going to save that for another time, just like I said last time. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and make sure to follow me on social media at VG_Vault on Twitter and Instagram. You can stop in and say hi, or just let me know what you want to see in my next upcoming videos. Other than that, guys, you have a good one. Thanks for watching. Peace.